You had a really interesting case in the book about asthma and infidelity. Would you care to jump into that for a second?
Sure. There was
how that demonstrates what we're talking about.
Sure. There was a person who came to me once, and he complained of asthma and was on at least 2 or 3 different drugs for his asthma. But, you know, and nevertheless still struggled with his asthma in spite of having all those medications. And when we got into the nitty-gritty and talked about what was going on in his life, he revealed to me that he had a trouble with commitment. And I asked him, "What do you mean?" You know, and he said, "Well, currently I have 2 girlfriends." "Oh, okay. And are they okay with that?" "Well, they don't know about that. You know, one doesn't know about the other one." "Oh, okay. That sounds hard to navigate. How do you do
Double
that?"
life.
You know?
Yeah.
But he says he's been doing this for a long time, where he can't commit to one person, and he feels the need to have more than one. And he admits openly that it was a function of his own shortcomings, his own weaknesses, his own insecurities. He doesn't like what's happening, but he doesn't know how to do otherwise, right? And so it occurred to me that, gee, that makes perfect sense as to why you'd have trouble breathing. You know, and he says, "Yeah, well, I do feel like I'm suffocating almost, you know." And so from my perspective, when I'm using my medicine, my homeopathic medicine, I'm then looking for a treatment, a homeopathic substance that matches that profile, matches that pattern, right? And there's a very specific medicine that we call thuya. It's made from a plant, from an evergreen plant, and it fits people who are stuck in a pattern of being secretive and who get asthma. It's a very common asthma medicine that I use, and a lot of times you can determine which individual needs this particular homeopathic medicine based upon some of those psychological factors. And one of the big ones is, I'm secretly ashamed of what I'm doing, and I secretly hide away this dirty secret about myself because I'm afraid that if people find out about it, what are they going to think of me? So they live with this secret. And that's almost what we would call the essence of that medicine. It's the idea behind that medicine. And so I started prescribing him a few doses of that particular remedy, and gradually over time his asthma started to diminish. And not only that, but he started to come in and hint at his desire and intention to change his old pattern. And at a certain point, he told one of the girlfriends that, "I can no longer see you. I need to stick with the one," you know. And that was kind of a big breakthrough for him. And as he did it, his asthma lifted. And so it's this remarkable example of how body and mind are connected, and how they're connected in very specific and unique ways that reflect patterns. And those patterns of symptoms that people have are reflected in patterns of symptoms that can be caused by physical substances out there in nature. And in this particular case, it matched this pattern of this evergreen tree, believe it or not. Right?
That is one of the big ideas, isn't it?
Right. So
if we're talking about depression, for instance, how does that relate? You've just done a big blog post on depression and published an article and whatnot. And how does that tie into this whole series of looking at what we all think we know a lot about depression? It's a very popular thing. We've become very aware of depression in our lives, and you're saying that there are different types of depressions.
Right. And if we start with the conventional perspective on depression, we've all been led to believe that it's a chemical imbalance, right? So think about it, right? It suits medicine's need to have people's illnesses conform to its worldview. So it looks for a material cause. It looks for a reductionistic cause, something that's small in a part somewhere, located in a part. So it's a chemical, it's in the brain, it's physical, right? And they love that sort of explanation, right? And then it makes it a simple matter of, okay, now we're going to give you a chemical that alters that balance. At least this is the theory. The problem is that in practical reality, it falls short. And the results are often not what they're purported to be. And there are many dissatisfied patients who jump from antidepressant to antidepressants and sometimes add another one, so they're on two of them, and and it gets very frustrating and difficult because usually those people are only getting temporary and or superficial results. From my perspective, again, it's all about understanding each individual person and the unique nature of their depression. So to me, there are many varieties of depression. The most organic kind of depression, the one that you could actually say is the most physical, that would satisfy that medical description, is the depression that comes from a head injury, right? And it's a very it's documented phenomena that some people who have head injuries, concussions, wind up in this state of chronic depression. The cool thing is that in homeopathy, we actually have a very specific remedy that fits that. So it's as simple as understanding the history, where the depression came from, and using that particular medicine, which is called natrum sulfuricum. It's from sodium sulfide. It's a compound, right? And I've seen many cases of people who say, I've been depressed, and then once I get a history and I say, well, what's happened in your life? Well, I've had 3 concussions over the past 10 years. Oh, where did the depression start? And you can see the timeline and see the coincidence of it. They coincide together, and that makes my case. Now, there's many other variations of depression. Depression is often related to grief. I'd say the vast majority of depressions are really grief-related. Someone never quite processed their grief and is still stuck. Still stuck in the grief, whether they're stuck in, we understand the various stages of grief. They're stuck in anger, or they're stuck in denial, or whatever it may be, or some mixture of that. There are many cases of depression that began with a terrible loss. I lost my loved one. I lost my parent. I lost my child. Obviously, some of the most devastating are when you lose a child. And even then, there are variations on that when it comes to my homeopathic perspective, because someone may say, well, ever since that loss, all I can do is cry and cry and cry, and I cry almost every day, and it's been 2 years now, and I'm still crying, And someone else says, ever since that terrible loss happened, I have not shed a tear, and I can't cry. And it just, no matter what I do, I can't let it out. It's stuck in there, And someone else says, ever since then, it was devastating to me. I lost my faith in my God. I lost my purpose. I didn't see the purpose in life anymore. And ever since then, I felt suicidal. And there are many variations. Someone else could say, ever since then, I've had no energy, and I've been to umpteen doctors, and they say I have chronic fatigue syndrome, and all I want to do is sit around and lay on the couch and watch TV. Every time I get a chance, and my friends call me and they say, come on out, and I say, no, I don't really want to. And it's been 2 years now since my loss, right? All of these are variations that show you that while medical science wants to make it nice and neat and fit people into boxes that conform to, well, this is depression, here's an antidepressant, it's not that simple, and that there are variations, and each unique person reacts to circumstances according to their own constitution. It's as if there are constitutional types out there who react to the very same stressor in a different way than the other person does, who is of a different constitutional type. And so we need to treat the person, not the illness, not the label of depression. We need to treat the person who's struggling with whatever it is that they're struggling with, right? And I can run through the lists. I can say the person who is suicidal often needs a homeopathic remedy made from gold, believe it or not. It's called Aurum. It's made from gold. The one who can't cry and is dried up and can't cry is another medicine called Natrum muriaticum. The one who can't stop crying is usually responds very well to a medicine called Ignatia, which is made from a plant. And you give these things to these people, and they'll start to overcome their condition and break out of that pattern that they're stuck in.
And we're stuck in a pattern of the time for the show, and I'm wondering. Of course, the next question I can't ask because the answer will be too long. But let me try it anyway. The nature of categorizing depression, it seems to me, with your method, takes a much more psychological approach, a much more sensitive approach to the actual events that are causing it, rather than looking at the symptom. Not crying, well, why not? Like how long ago? What happened? Let's give the address for your website.
Oh, sure.
Because I just stopped you from talking.
No, it's okay. My website is docmalerba.com. So it's DOC, Doc Malerba, MALERBA, docmalerba.com.
Okay, check it out. Great to talk with you, Larry. Doctor.